So you've probably seen the headlines everywhere. A last-minute deal has saved TikTok from a total nationwide ban. But listen, this is not a simple story. This isn't just a company being sold. This is a high-stakes geopolitical drama. And the ending is, well, it's really complicated. Or maybe it's not even the ending at all. I mean, to really get what's going on, you have to understand the sheer scale of what was at stake here. We're talking about 170 million Americans who use this app. That's more than half the country. So you can imagine, shutting it down was never, ever going to be an easy move. The political pressure to find some kind of solution was just immense. And yeah, if you're a TikTok user, you probably breathed a huge sigh of relief. But when you start digging into the details of this quote-unquote breakthrough deal, things get a little murky. It kind of suggests that the core problems that started this whole crisis, well, they might not be solved at all. Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at the deal itself. Then, we have to talk about the algorithm standoff that made it all necessary. After that, we'll rewind a bit and see how we got to the brink of a ban, look at TikTok's massive defense plan, and finally, try to figure out what all this means for the future. All right, let's dive into Section 1, the deal to save TikTok. And the key thing to get here is that this was a political compromise, plain and simple, not a straightforward sale. So the official term they're using is a basic framework consensus. Now that's a mouthful, right? But that language is super intentional. It's carefully crafted to let both Washington and Beijing walk away feeling like they got a win. The US can say, hey, we address national security, while China gets to protect the app's so-called cultural characteristics. And trust me, that phrase means something very, very specific. And you can see this on the American side. President Trump, he framed it as a victory for the users. His post on Truth Social really shines a light on that huge public pressure to avoid banning an app that's just so baked into youth culture. But then you look at the view from Beijing, and the tone is completely different. China's lead negotiator, Li Chenggang, he confirmed the agreement, sure, but he immediately followed it with this really sharp warning about what he calls US suppression. And that right there shows you just how fragile this whole compromise really is. Okay, Section 2. This is the real heart of the matter, the algorithm standoff. It's a fundamental clash between data security on one side and intellectual property on the other. And this slide just lays it out perfectly. You've got the US demand, which is all about getting total control over American user data and content moderation to stamp out any security risks. But then, on the other side, you have China's red line. They have made it crystal clear. They will not sell the core technology, that powerful algorithm, which they see as priceless intellectual property. And this algorithm, I mean, it's the whole game. It's the secret sauce that makes the app so incredibly addictive. It's that magic engine that knows exactly what you want to see next. Control over that one piece of code is everything. And the question of who really owns it, that's still the biggest unresolved issue in this entire deal. So how in the world did we get here? Let's jump into Section 3, the road to a ban. Because this crisis, it didn't just pop up overnight. It was a slow burn over years of warnings and mounting political pressure. You know, it started pretty small back in 2019 with a fine for collecting data from kids. But then things really started to escalate. In 2022, there was a bombshell report confirming that employees in China were accessing US user data. That was the spark that lit the fire. It led directly to Congress passing that huge divest or ban law in 2024. And when the Supreme Court upheld it, the clock started ticking, forcing that chaotic, brief 12-hour shutdown of the app. Now, while this whole political battle was raging, TikTok was doing something pretty incredible behind the scenes. They were building this massive, billion-dollar fortress to try and solve the problem on their own terms. They called it Project Texas, and it was a truly unprecedented effort. Just think about this. They moved all US user data onto Oracle servers right here on US soil. They created a whole separate American company just to act as a firewall between that data and their parent company ByteDance. And get this, to prove they had nothing to hide, they gave their partner Oracle the full keys to review 100% of their source code. And to lead this whole thing, TikTok hired Andy Bonello, a former Secret Service agent. This quote from him really gets to the heart of TikTok's argument. He's basically saying that with Project Texas, they had built a system so secure that it completely eliminated the risks that politicians were so worried about. But in the end, even that wasn't enough to stop the law from passing. And all of that brings us right back to today. This new deal stops the immediate ban, which is huge, but it feels a lot more like we're just starting a new chapter in a long, ongoing saga rather than reaching the final page. Because there are some major questions just left hanging in the air. Like, who is really going to control the algorithm if it's just being licensed? Does this deal even satisfy the 2024 law? It might still need Congress to sign off on it. And what role, if any, will ByteDance still have? This new framework is completely silent on these absolutely critical details. Which, of course, leaves us with the ultimate question. This deal keeps the app on the phones of 170 million Americans, for now. But with these core issues of data security, foreign influence, and who actually controls the tech still very much on the table, you have to ask yourself, has the fundamental problem of TikTok actually been solved, or has it just been kicked a little further down the road?